Hey, call me Shape. And today I'm reacting to a video titled, What Being a Personal Trainer Taught Me About Women. Let's get right into it.
I'll tell y'all, being a personal trainer at these luxury gyms, Equinox, Boston Sports Clubs in Wellesley, Massachusetts. Look up Wellesley, Massachusetts. Like I would say it's top two, top three, like wealthiest city in Boston. Like when I was a trainer at these places, especially when I was in college, because that was my first ever quote unquote occupation that I did, especially while I was in college, there were a lot of interactions that I would have with women, married women specifically, not single women. I did have some single women that I worked with. That's fine. But married women, I would have some interactions with them that would leave me scratching my head because, I'm a very moral person, and obviously don't shit where you eat, right? Like always, that was always my mindset. Never shit where you eat. And also never touch another man's wife, right? That's another thing. Consensually, of course. I know some people are going to think like I'm saying something crazy, but I would have these crazy experiences where, obviously I'm a trainer. I'm here to make money. I'm making money and I'm working with these women and they start to get really flirtatious, right? And you start to wonder because that they're married because they came with their husbands in that consultation. Their husbands were sitting in that consultation. Their husbands were egging them on to actually be trained by me. And they were all for it. And then once the husband left and they were just me and them in the gym, right? They would start to, say flirtatious things. They say, "Oh, you're so attractive. Like, oh, your muscles. I love how you look. Like, oh my God, like you're so amazing. I wish my husband was like that." And they would start to say things like this in the beginning, right? And I would work with these women for about 3 to 6 months, right? Nothing crazy. But as the weeks went on, the flirtations got more and more and more and more and more, right? To the point where it just got to a point where I'm like, "You're married." Like I wouldn't tell them this, but in my head, I'm like, "You're married. Like, how could you be this flirtatious? Like, how could you be egging me on so much?" And it would get to a point, I would say typically around week 8, they would be like, "Hey, I'm not gonna lie, like I'm really attracted to you. Like I don't really do much when I'm at home. My husband's not there. He's always at work. You can come over," or something like that. Or like, "Hey, let's go."
He's on a timeline. He said by week 8, they're trying to come over. Look, I'm a personal trainer, and I've been a personal trainer for the last 5 years, okay? And I do work at a luxury gym. But I would tell you one thing for sure. I used to work with a gym. I used to work at LA Fitness. I don't work at LA Fitness anymore. LA Fitness is not a luxury gym, but when I worked at LA Fitness, there was another trainer I worked with, and he told me that sex and personal training are like they go hand in hand. And I think what he meant by that is that a lot of times, the reason why people are even trained to improve their body, for one reason, it's to look more sexually desirable. That's one. And two, people tend to want to train people who they sexually desire or want to be like, right? So when it comes to a man, a lot of times a man could train a woman who finds him sexually attractive. And that, in a way, I don't want to say it's a conflict of interest or, maybe to the husband it is if he's paying for it, right? But look at the Cassie and Diddy case, right? Diddy was paying for a trainer for Cassie, and she ends up sleeping with the trainer. This is something a lot of men are scared of. And the reason why they should be scared of, because women tend to train with men, if they have a male trainer, who they are attracted to. Now, I'm a professional, so I don't cross those kind of lines, right? Have I seen stuff? Yes. Do I dive into it? No. A lot of the married women I've personally trained are women who have not shown any sexual interest. They might make comments here and there, but they haven't shown any interest. And honestly, a lot of them are not. I haven't trained a millionaire's wife, so I can't speak to that. Most of the wealthy people I trained are bringing in like $300,000 a year as a family, as a couple, right? That dual income. So I don't know his experience exactly, but I do know people would hire a trainer, men and women, who they're attracted to. So a guy would hire a trainer, like a female trainer that he's attracted to, and a woman would hire a male trainer that she's attracted to. That's very, very common. Hey, listen up, Shape Squad. Are you tired of being ignored by women? Well, download my free ebook, Be Attractive and Shut Up. It's going to teach you how to master attraction, build unshakable confidence, and win with women without words. Because chances are you're not ugly, you just talk too damn much. So download my free ebook, Be Attractive and Shut Up, and take control of your dating life right now. Now let's get right back to the content.
Let's go do that. And I would politely say no, I respectfully say no, because obviously, I respect their husbands, I respect what they're doing, I respect the hustle that they're doing. But there's one thing I realized, because these demographic of women were rich women, right? And these rich women were always left at home by themselves. They were always bored. So they always wanted to talk to a lot of these guys who were in these services industries, right? They would have their own personal masseuse who was a male. They would have their own trainer who was a male. They'd have their own gardener who was a male. They'd have all these male services around them, right? Clearly for a reason. It never was just that, right? It never was just for just like their actual trade work that they did. But as I was talking to them more, I would try to understand what was going on at home, because that would give me a good understanding of why they act the way that they act. Because I do believe that women who feel neglected, or who feel like they're just sitting at home and just like their husband is out doing whatever he's doing, again, respectful, because he's going out, he's going on business trips. Who knows what he's doing on these business trips, of course. But like, he's bringing in money, right? She's living this comfortable lifestyle. Why would you talk to a 19-year-old personal trainer who's in college still? Like, why would you do that? You know what I mean? So it always hit me in the back of my head, like, what's going on? Like, why are you choosing to talk to me versus the guy who's rich? Don't women like rich guys? Don't they only want money? And when I started to really analyze this, I noticed that the money was kind of like a safety net for them. They want the rich guys because the rich guys have the money that will give them the lifestyle that they want. But the fun comes in with the guy who may not be rich, but also has a certain personality and has a certain edge to him that they're super attracted to, more of like the high testosterone guy, right? That like they just have like this crazy fondness of, they fantasize over. A lot of women fantasize over the personal trainer. They fantasize over the masseuse that touches them a little bit in a certain way, and they get excited and they want to do this and they want to do that. I'm not saying all women, but that happens consistently. And it got to a certain point where I was really just asking so many questions about their relationships, and they would open up. They would say a lot. They say, "Oh, well, he doesn't last very long. Like it's kind of boring. Like I've never orgasmed in my sex life at all." Like they would.
And it's funny that that's a priority for women, right? Having the big O is so important to women. I've met women who are perceivably good women. They have a low body count. Even they want a big O. They feel entitled to it. And honestly, back in the day, they should call this a dual mating strategy, right? She'll date one guy for the money, and which would be like long-term security and provision for her. And then she'll go out and try to mate with the alpha male, right? The man who is physically strong, the one that she sexually desires. And it's like modern women want mistresses, right? They want to have affairs, right? So, I can understand what he's talking about. Like me personally, like I said, I don't know this personally, but then again, I'm from New Jersey. So the wealthy clubs that we have in New Jersey, the wealthy gyms that we have in New Jersey, they're not similar to the wealthy gyms in Massachusetts. Massachusetts and Boston got real money. That's like billionaire money. So no, I haven't trained the wives of billionaires, but what I can tell you about rich people in general, a lot of rich men are not in good shape. Like the best physiques in the gym tend to be broke men. Like, it's so funny how uncommon a fit man who's wealthy and is smart, that's like so rare. But every woman wants that. Like if you think about like professional athletes, right? And by the way, a lot of them are not smart. A lot of them are going to be broke after 5 years, 6 years of their professional career as an athlete. But there's about 3,000 professional athletes in America, right? Like that make money, right? And, compared to what? 340 million people, not that many. But all women desire that. They want the tippity top guy. And it's funny to me because, instead of saying, all right, this man has money, I'm just going to be loyal to him, I'm going to be faithful to him. No, she wants everything. I think that's what we're discovering now, how greedy modern women are. Modern women are greedy. They want it all. They want the good-looking guy that got money. Now, to me, a decent woman is a woman who could date you even if you don't got that much money, but she's attracted to you. Or a woman who you got that much money, but she's not that attracted to you. That's impressive to me, right? Because you accept that your man has one thing, he doesn't have everything. Because most women don't have everything either. It's not like you're going to meet a woman and she has everything you're looking for. That's very rare. It's very rare. So to expect your man to have everything and cheat on him if he doesn't, It's just greed, yo. It honestly is personal greed. And I do think that we're living in times where our women are more greedy than they've ever been. They've ever been.
They would just like throw this shit out there. And they would bash the guy so much. And in my head, I'm like, but he's a millionaire. Like, bro, when I tell you, Wellesley, Massachusetts, billionaires out there, right? There are. I remember when I was waiting tables, because I did a little bit of serving at the country club, the Wellesley Country Club. The CEO of Bank of America was there. I'll never forget that. I didn't even know who he was. I served him, right? And these are the types of guys that live there. Like all the NBA players live there, everything, right? And all of their wives, I'm not saying his wife or I'm not saying any NBA player's wife, but like a lot of these rich guys' wives would go to these trainers and they would flirt with them and they would do things with them. And it always puzzled me because I'm like, you have something safe at home. Why are you coming here and taking the risk with somebody? What if he finds out? Right. But then obviously, you know, they have probably half of whatever the guy has and they feel like they can do whatever they want. And it was just crazy to experience this stuff. And they would always talk about how like he doesn't necessarily listen to me. He doesn't pay enough attention to me. I always feel like I'm alone. I'm with the kids. Like I just like want to have some fun. Right. And it's tough to hear this as a man because you're like, man, what if this shit happens to me? Which, again, it can happen to anybody. It can happen to me, it can happen to you, it can happen to anybody. It doesn't fucking matter. The reality is it is a possibility, right? But what I've also noticed is it's a possibility that can be reduced if you're a man who can basically do more, right? And again, this is going to piss off a lot of guys. They're like, why do I have to do more? I just don't want to date women at all. Go ahead. Don't do that. Right? That's your prerogative. But I take that as a masculine man, I take that as a challenge. Like how can I be somebody who's also fun, cool to talk to, like can actually give the woman a good experience while also getting the money as well. Right? It's good to have both. But a lot of these guys will be so focused on their careers, which again, respect to them because that's super important. But the women would be on the side just fucking around, right? Idle's mind is the devil's playground is what I learned. Because as they're doing these exercises, they're pointing their butt out a certain way. They want to do more squats. All of a sudden, they want you to get right behind them. They want you to do all these different things. And I just realized, man, I'm like, if you're a dude and you let your woman like go be with like a male trainer or like a male masseuse or any of these different services, you're kind of cooked at the end of the day, especially if you're a grinder, if you're somebody who's really working hard and building and you're not at home very often. The likelihood of something happening is a lot higher. And I didn't realize this until I went through that process. And once I started to understand, like, it's not about the money. It's not. It's about the fun. It's about the thrill. It's about the emotional roller coaster. A lot of these guys, when I would meet them, when they would come and sit down at like, you know, we would do halfway point reviews and stuff like that. And like they'd want to renew and everything. They would be so excited that I'm working with them. They're like, man, you're doing so great. She looks so amazing, et cetera, right? And it's like, they just didn't understand what was going on behind the scenes. It like could not even be possible in their mind that their wife would be flirting with a 19-year-old personal trainer.
Yeah, because, and see, this is the problem. See, a lot of men think, all right, how can I mitigate the chances of me being cheated on, right? That's like the goal for a lot of men, because like he says himself, he sees it, it's like, oh, this guy's a millionaire, He's impressed by that as a man because he knows the more money you have as a man, you have more freedom, you have more options, you have more power. Here's a problem with that though. A lot of these men are nice, genuine people. And they're genuine. They are the true romantics. They want to give their wife this great experience. They know to themselves, oh, I might not have the best body, because they think to themselves, I want to sacrifice my health, my own personal fitness, to be able to earn a good money and provide for my family. And that's exactly what they do. But they don't realize that frame the idea that I'm going to sacrifice myself for a woman are going to use that against you because they have leverage over you, right? I'm going to give you an example. Johnny Depp. Johnny Depp is a pretty in shape guy. He's very famous. He has lots of money. But look at Amber Heard. Look at how Amber Heard treated him. What else could Johnny Depp do? How much better could he have treated her in order to get his way or get her to behave? And that's why I'm writing a book, how to get your woman to behave, or how to get women to behave. The reason, because a lot of men think if I just do the right thing, women will behave. And no, it's not the only thing. The other thing is you have to have leverage over a woman, and you have to display your leverage constantly. And this is what I mean by that. A woman should always be in fear of losing you. People do a lot more for fear of loss than they do for the opportunity to gain. They do a lot more work. This is why women the first thing they're going to satisfy when it comes to a man is security, because they're scared of what? Losing their own ability to provide for themselves. So the first thing women tend to check off the list is getting rid of that fear of being in poverty. Then from there, they're looking to gain fun and have success. But the first priority for a lot of women is to deal with their fears. Now, after their fears are taken care of, then they go out pursuing things. Now, the way I look at this as a man is that your girl has to be, in a way, walking on eggshells. She has to have the feeling that you will leave her if she acts out. You have to set clear boundaries for her, like a child. You have to set clear boundaries for a child that if they do this particular activity or if they behave this way, there's consequences. A lot of men don't have any consequences for their women. Therefore, their woman rules over them because they give away their leverage. They make sure their woman feels like he's never going to leave her. He always wants her. He's always going to provide for her, that he can't do no wrong. And it makes a lot of women feel like, oh, if I cheat on him, it won't matter. You know what I'm saying? But to have that frame as a man is to give yourself and hold yourself to the highest value and never give your way that strength that you have over women, never give it into women. It says this in the Bible, Proverbs 31:3, right? Never give thy strength unto a woman or thy ways in which destroyeth kings and kingdoms, right? And what it talks about is your strength is your leverage, your resources, your capacity. All these things, you just can't give it away. And a lot of men do this in hopes that they're going to get a faithful woman. It doesn't work that way. Spoiling people does not earn loyalty. I wish that was the case, but it doesn't. This is why men are so romantic, because they think, if I just do everything she wants, she'll be loyal to me. No, you're actually, and this is how it's counterintuitive, you're actually creating a monster. That's why spoiling kids is a horrible thing. You would think, right? If I gave this kid had every opportunity he need, blah, blah, blah. How come they're blowing it? How come they ruin it? Like, I grew up in a suburb that you had these kids who I would see wealthy kids in different suburbs, like nearby suburbs, and they'd be dying over overdoses. I'm like, what? They're overdosing? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, in the hood, overdosing for a kid is not that common. Overdosing, like, for the fiends. But for, like, in the suburbs, it's common. These kids are bored. They got nothing to do. They have their life. They never have to struggle for anything. And if you don't have to struggle for nothing, most people look for the struggle. They look for the challenge. We were designed in many ways as humans to find challenges in life. So if there is no challenges in life, they're going to create it because they're going to get bored. What keeps a lot of people entertained in life is have to work through something. Like me, I'm working to build my YouTube channel, right? To build my following, build my audience. I'm building books on top of that. It's a challenge, so it keeps me up at, not only it keeps me up at night, but it keeps me on my toes, right? Because there's always more work to be done. But a lot of people who sit around, you know, they're spoon-fed, they got nothing to work towards, they get bored, they get fat, and they get lazy because there's no burning desire behind them. Their back's not against the wall. And this is why it's a disadvantage to be spoiled. And it's an advantage to have nothing. And these things are counterintuitive to people. So a lot of people, you know what I'm saying? Like I said, they want to spoil their kids, spoil their wives. They want to give people everything. Like you hear parents say it all the time. I don't want my kid to have to want for anything. No, you want your kids to want for something. Right? Like, I grew up in a nice house. I had a chandelier in my house, right? If you walk into the entrance of my house, the house I grew up in, 40-foot ceilings, right? Like something insane like that. 30, 40-foot ceilings with a chandelier hanging above your head, right? But my dad never spoiled me. When I went to school, you know, kids would look at me like, damn, like they would have thought I grew up in a regular household because, you know, my dad would only spend $100 for the entire school year for me to get sneakers and clothes. I had to like make $100 last. So I was rocking South Pole, because South Pole jeans back in the day were like $20. So I could get 2 South Pole jeans. That's $40 already. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think my dad would buy the sneakers separately. So just $100 for clothing. So 2 South Pole pants. I get like 2 shirts and blah, blah. And that was literally the budget for the entire school year. And I used to hate it because I used to see kids in school brand new clothes every month. brand new sneakers. And I'm like, yo, I want that. I wanted these things. I wanted to go to school fresh. So you know what I had to do? I had to get a job. I started working earlier than a lot of my friends. So what ended up happening was I started having more money than other kids my age. So much to the point now where I was able to save up more money than at times, even now I have saved, right? Like I saved up like $3,000 as a kid. You know what I'm saying? I was like 15, 16 years old. And now I've realized a lot of adults don't even have $3,000 saved. And I did that as a kid. Now, granted, obviously I didn't have responsibilities, but I'm just trying to say, like, I heard somewhere that the average person doesn't have $1,000 for an emergency. So what he's discovering is, yes, in these uber wealthy people who are spoiled, who husbands try to give them the world, they've realized that actually ruins their relationship. Your woman has to earn you, work for you. This is why, think about why modern women work so hard in their careers. Because their careers don't just hand themselves to them. They have to work, they have to compete, they have to fight for it. And a lot of women are willing to do this. She has to do that in a relationship with you. Yes, you want to make a great and pleasant experience for her, but never let your woman think for 1 second that you won't walk away from her relationship if she acts out. That is the worst thing. And so many men think it's loving to give women unconditional love. No, that's loving for a parent to give a child unconditional love in a way. But also treat your kid like, yo, you messed up, you're out. Like, there has to be that fine line. You know what I'm saying? And so, you know, I don't think what he's discovering is unique to personal trainers. The unique thing about personal trainers is that they're probably more attractive people on the planet from the standpoint of, on average, personal trainers tend to be fit, athletic. A lot of personal trainers were former athletes, right? They played collegiate sports. They've been playing a sport their entire lives. Like, I didn't play a sport growing up, right? I began training in the last 5 years. So I'm someone that traditionally, I was a photographer for the last 8 years prior to becoming a personal trainer. And this is why my thumbnails are great. People look at my thumbnails on YouTube. The reason why they're good is because I know Photoshop. I've been doing Photoshop for so long. When I started making YouTube videos, it was an easy transition. But I'm saying this to say that, you know, and I have a pretty good body because I built my body in the last 5 years, and I'm healthy. I'm plant-based, right? I eat all vegetables and fruits. I don't eat any meat, no dairy, no oil, no added salt, no added sugar, none of that stuff. I got a very strict diet, so my body looks great. But a lot of people don't live like that. They don't have the discipline of a personal trainer. They don't have a discipline of someone that goes to the gym day in and day out. And I won't lie to you. This is my advice to men. If you're not fit, get fit. It's a different experience dealing with women, 100%. And I meet rich men all the time that use their money and they lead with their wallet to compensate for everything else. It don't. Your money won't help you. If you don't have that good frame inside, you're trying to be kind to people and stuff like that, people take advantage of you. You know, like the Jeff Bezos of the world. You know what I'm saying? These people, the Johnny Depps of the world, right? So you can have the looks, the body, everything. If you don't have the frame, you're going to be missing out. That's why you guys got to download my free ebook, Be Attractive and Shut Up. It tells you a lot about frame, mindset when it comes to women, right? Because women are not like men. You can't treat women like men. Men, you know, you can live by good deeds and good fate when it comes to men. That'll help you, right? Have homies and loyalty, stuff like that. When it comes to women, it got to be boundaries and always have them on their toes, right? Like, date a woman who the standard is she needs to be fit. Date a woman where the standard is she needs to cooperate. Date a woman who the standard is she understands that, you know, you're the leader, right? And she's a subordinate, right? And when you date these boss babes who think they can compete with you and all this nonsense, it ain't no fixing that. Ain't nothing you could do. You can't throw money at that problem and fix it. You can't. All right? Anyway, like the video, subscribe to the channel. Channel blowing up. I appreciate you guys. Check out some of my other videos. And I'll see y'all over there.